don't know how you've done all these years. Seeing all the things you've seen, doing all the things you've done, makes you feel inhuman after a while.
Captain, you do know Chief Yellowhawk. The Army wants to be certain that the Chief gets home to Montana safely without incident.
I don't have any idea what he's done. He's a butcher.
And the two of you ought to get along just fine.
I've killed savages because that's my job. You have no idea what war does to a man. I hate him. I got a war bag of reasons to hate him.
This will be done, and it will be done by you.
Parade's over. Put him in chains.
You believe in the Lord, Joseph?
Yes, I do. But he's been blind to what's going on out here for a long time. Understand this. When we lay our heads down out here, we're all prisoners.
No, I've killed everything that's walked or crawled. If you do it enough, you get used to it.
That's what I'm afraid of. You just gotta take your dues.
We both know it could just as easily be you sitting here in these chains.
Sometimes I envy the finality of death, the certainty. And I have to drive those thoughts away when I'm weak.
Something tells me you ain't got the nerve to fire that woman.
Everybody, please put your hands together for Wes Studi, Rosamund Pike, and Christian Bale of the great new film, Hostiles. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Congratulations on the film. Another great film by Scott Cooper, one of the best we have working right now. Christian, this is your second time out with him, right? He said that he wrote this part for you. Is that a blessing or a curse when someone hands you something that they say they wrote for you?
It's a bit of a, I mean, you know, you feel a definite obligation, don't you? But with Scott, it was fantastic. So a very gripping tale instantly, and something that I knew that we would both be able to get obsessed with. Because you've got to have that, because you're going to be working on it for months ahead of time, months during the filming. And then for the director especially, you know, months afterwards, and there was just something about it. I don't always like to analyze why I like something initially, because I like to discover it as you make it.
And what was it about this that obsessed you right away, or obsessed you about this character, Captain Walker?
You could see in this character who is a man of very few words, but just limitless thoughts. And it was interesting to me how he kind of was able to express himself through the people around him. It's interesting to me in terms of American history. It's very raw, it's very brutal, it's very violent. That is American history. The film is likewise. And the reckoning of a man who is incredibly good at what he does, but only knows one thing. And he has bigotry and he has hatred, and he has legitimate reasons for having so, because he has friends who have been killed. But he's intelligent. He knows he's perpetrating a genocide as well. And so whilst
that's the one thing that he's good at. That's one of the issues, right?
Yes. Whilst he absolutely hates Wes's character, Yellowhawk, he also does have respect for him. You know, what I like so much about with this film is it allows the characters to be human and to have multiple emotions at the same time. And he knows that he would behave the same way that Yellowhawk does if he were in his shoes. And then you've got this journey, you know, which you see, I don't know if you see in the trailer that he's threatened with court-martial if he does not escort Yellowhawk. And but to him, there's the huge guilt of rendering his friend's deaths meaningless by not killing this man, really. And so it's a journey of how do you stop hatred.
Wes, what was it like for you to tell a tale of the American frontier that is kind of a revisionist take on how American history usually tells this story, and especially how movies usually tell this story?
Well, we should give a big shout out to revisionist, right? I mean, or either that or correcting the situation, right?
Correcting the revisionist history from
there you
the
go.
past.
We've tried it a million times before, right? Yeah. Well, hopefully this time we'll get it right. But we're always trying to do that, right? But it was good to play a part of a prisoner of war, really. You know, that's something that I think that we've never really dealt with in terms of how is it that we waged warfare on groups of people, and then if it's around the world, well, we rebuild their cities and rebuild their economies and stuff. But what did we do that, how did we go about doing that here fighting Native Americans, right? We criminalized them. And actually, that's what we're doing now throughout the world, and that's a sad thing. But that's just sort of kind of a reflection of art imitates life, eh?
Yeah. The film is imitating a certain aspect of life right now, you think?
I believe it is. Yeah. I mean, it's something that has happened over and over and over again, and we somehow, for some reason, we haven't seemed to pick up on how it was that we kind of made these mistakes, and we continue to do this. Can't we learn anything? Jeez.
I hope. It doesn't seem like we are, but I hope so one day. Rosamund, your character goes through pretty unspeakable tragedy at the top of the film. I think it's in the trailer. I don't think I spoiled anything. What was it like getting the script and reading that, and that you were going to have to do this as an actress, and you were going to have to sort of do these scenes? Is that something that feels like an exciting challenge to you, or do you worry about jumping into that?
Yeah, I mean, my character, I don't think it does happen in the first 10 minutes of the film, but her family suffers a massacre right in the opening frames of the film. I mean, it's one of the most bold openings of a movie I've seen in a long time. It's very startling, and you do wonder, reading it, where you can go from there. It's a brutal murder of 3 small children and her husband, and of course, I realised very quickly that this woman is going to be left with all that survivor's guilt and questioning of why, and why is it a punishment to be left when you've lost those you loved? Yes, it is. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing to bear. How do you go on? How do you go on when everything that was important to you is lost? And yet, if you're a woman of religion, if you're a woman of faith, to ask for death is obviously wrong too. And yet she wants to join them. I mean, she's got no reason to live. I mean, it was a very, very daunting thing to take on. Partly, well, largely because, you know, in looking for answers, I drew on many sources of people for whom such a tragedy was real, people who've lost multiple members of their family in one tragic accident. And, you know, their experiences as they're written about or talked about are so raw, I thought, well, I have to do justice to their experience, otherwise this is just a total fraud.
I would also imagine people who have not just lost family members or loved ones in tragedy, but those who also then had to come to a term, some sort of forgiveness afterwards, forgive the perpetrator or somebody else, sort of overcome some form of hate that was instilled in them after that loss.
I think that's really true. And I think, you know, that one of the things I learnt playing Rosalie is that she's burnt up with a hatred which she finds overpowering, overwhelming, and yet she realizes that there's no answer to it. You know, if the people who killed her family die, that doesn't bring them back. And so in a way, it's a journey into an acceptance that life can go on, life will be forever changed, but there is a new life. You know, there has to be hope. Films have to deal in hope, I think. Ultimately, there has to be a vision where, and it's an ambivalent hope that our film puts across. I mean, even our ending, we were talking about it last night, is not, you know, it's certainly not joyful. It's full of questions. I think Hostiles raises a lot of questions, and there are questions about the future of all the people that go long beyond the end of the film.
I think it's hopeful, though, isn't it, the ending? Will this be shown before the film comes out or after?
This interview?
Yeah.
This interview's live right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Oh, well, I won't say what I was about to say then, because it would have ruined.
But it will still be
the
online
ending,
after the
you
film
know.
comes out, and people can go back and watch
Yeah.
it.
All right, no, but I'm gonna.
They will. Don't give me that look. They'll watch it.
Mate.
Christian, you know, oftentimes people talk about the likability of a main character in a lead role, and your character in this film, I don't know if we necessarily grow to like him, or if that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter for me when I watch a movie, but as an actor diving into that role, how much do you consider that? Do you try to find moments to make him, quote, likable for you or for the audience?
What I do try to do is find moments that you understand, and you can't avoid that, because in any human being there is going to be an element to them that is understandable and surprising to yourself. Now, this is a man who, yes, is a bigot, is filled with absolute hatred, but he is loyal to a fault and will die for his friends. But he's very intelligent as well, and he recognizes that in spite of the pain he is going through, he is actually causing this pain, and it's a much larger pain of genocide, you know, enacted upon the Native Americans, and there's also a hatred and disgust at the fact that he has seen so many die, and then suddenly the political winds change. They need a PR stunt, and he suddenly has to escort this man to a sacred burial ground. And just the frustration of having leaders who do not put themselves in danger at all, but expect soldiers of the likes of Blocker to live and die based on their whimsical decisions. And so I came to understand a great deal, but he is a man who has had to fill himself with very unhealthy motivations. And we see him attempting in a very difficult way to shed himself of that throughout the film.
Do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, and yet, you know, when my character comes across Blocker, or he comes across my character, you know, there's an unspoken, I wouldn't necessarily say tenderness, but goodness that's immediately apparent. You know, he's probably not someone who's come across many women at all.
I think he's really fascinated with Rosalie, Rosamund's character, and he's witnessed Yellowhawk has a family, he has love. He has that unity. He doesn't have that at all. And Rosalie is a fascination to him because she expresses her pain. And they're both very damaged individuals. But Blocker, as a leader of men, he can't show that. To show vulnerability is to show weakness, and so he can't do it. But so he finds her fascinating in that she is expressing the way that he feels himself, but will never show to anybody.
Do you find any similarities between this story and Blocker's relationship with the Cheyenne and sort of current political things that are happening right now, especially when it comes to those that are sort of trained to fight and to hate in other countries, and then the changing political winds sort of cause a
I can't even
backlash?
Begin to understand how our fighting men are then expected to just stop when they've seen their loved ones, their brothers in arms, killed. When the politics change in Washington, when they're treated very often so miserably when they do return home. How they manage that is almost unfathomable to me. And also, you know, something we didn't, when Scott first sent me the script, and I would imagine when you guys first read it as well, unless you were very prescient, we didn't realize how relevant this would come to be. It started to be during the filming, and then became very much so after filming, when you started to see the comfort with which Americans were starting to express their hatred for other Americans, for other people different from them, and seeing that division becoming acceptable to some people.
So what's that like, sort of doing a press tour for the film now as it's come out, and we're even further in the midst of that?
I mean, I think it's a wonderful opportunity in the hope that, this is not only just a bloody gripping tale, and one that, you know, I became obsessed with and just love to watch, but one that is incredibly thought-provoking, and does show we've been here before. division is not the way to go. Hatred of the other is not the way to go. America is built on inclusion. I'm English, as you can hear it, but this is my adopted country. I love it to bits, and clearly the direction that we're going in right now is a very, very troubling one, but hopefully good. Will come out of it.
And then dehumanization is a large part of our story here, wherein he's asked to have the Cheyenne all dressed up and fined up with the braids and everything, with the women and the men as well. And then we stop, and Blocker actually would like to kill me at that point, or Yellow Hawk. I think Christian might want to kill me at times too, but we'll go past that. I think that's the case at that point, is that, I think here, take this knife, let's get it out, let's get it on, is pretty much the whole thing there. And he could stop the whole story at that point in time, which is, I think, what Blocker has in mind to do at that. But no. I think a dying man, a man who has been in prison for 7 years, and knows that the Grim Reaper is coming in any case at any given time, I don't think I'm going to speed things along here or take the chance of speeding things along here. And I really don't feel healthy enough to fight this man at this point in time, is what Yellow Hawk is thinking, right? But like I say, the point that he makes at that juncture is that, all right, let's dehumanize them, take them, make them, the women take off their braids and
which is a great insult to the Cheyenne.
Let's criminalize and dehumanize them again here as we travel on here, because that's just the way that that he sees us. And as a person of color, I think I've lived with this the larger part of my life, and the unfortunate thing now is since November, things have sort of turned back to where all of that is much more acceptable, much more like, say, when I was a young man. But over the years, it seemed like we really made some strides in society to at least hide that part of our personality, our societal personality. But on the other hand, things have opened up to the point that, hey, let's express these things that we can feel. At least parts of society can do that, and we've made that possible somehow.
It's a film where, in its heart, it's really about time spent with the other is much better than time spent without. It builds empathy. At a certain point, we see all the things that you talked about, that he has a family and these other things. It makes Blocker much more empathetic at a certain point towards him, without giving anything away.
Yeah, I think though that Blocker has he's a incredibly complex man, incredibly deep man. He has an awful lot of self-loathing and guilt. He's not going to stop what he's doing. He's a dutiful soldier. And also the hatred has become real, as I described, because his friends have been killed. But that's mixed in with a great deal of guilt, which I don't imagine Yellow Hawk would have at all, because he is defending his way of life. He's defending his family and his community, whereas I'm attacking. And I think, the whole thing that Wes was talking about, since November, is it's people try to kind of put it into a red state, blue state thing, and I think that's really the wrong message, and it's I think it's really disingenuous as well. Our culture will be so much richer the day that we stop saying, hey, it's all white dudes who are running things, whether that be Hollywood, whether that be Washington. We're going to get in Hollywood so much better films and so much more interesting stories being told. And America will become the America that the rest of the world sees it as, that makes it unique, that as an Englishman, and I'm sure Rosamund is an Englishman as well, we recognize, I'm going to drag you into this, that we recognise makes this such a beautiful, brilliant country. And not to ruin that. I mean, it's the reason that I moved here. It's the reason my kids have American accents. Is because it is that. It's a country of inclusion and invitation.
Well, I'm glad you could come over.
Thank you, mate.
Rosamund, did you have something that you wanted to add a minute ago? I saw you start.
I was just thinking about Christian's performance in this film as a really amazing portrayal of soldiering. And it was just as you were talking, I was remembering something you'd said to me very early on, that, you know, if you're surrounded by so much violence and so much darkness, the only way to cope with that, if that is your life, is to become it. And I think Christian's performance is a really brilliant, profound understanding of that. And as my, you know, a lot of my work in the film is observing it and witnessing the self-loathing that Rosalie definitely sees in him. And her, I mean, one of my missions, I felt, was to try and assure Blocker that ultimately I think he's a good man.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I think also, though, that it's Blocker in observing Rosalie, too, that informs him so much. And I think across the board, you know, the performances, Jonathan Majors is incredible. You know, Timothy, Rory, Jesse.
I'm very happy that Scott Cooper is bringing back Rory Cochrane. I'm really excited.
He's amazing.
He's fantastic. Everybody else, it's a superb cast, and that comes down to Scott in doing that. He says himself,
didn't he?
It was a real wonderful experience. You know, it was tough, but I think we're all kind of looking for that. I am anyway. I want to really know that I've worked for this. I think I'm lucky to be able to do this job. Oh, I can? Yeah. I just get so used to when you're on camera, you just have to go instead of actually saying.
More than welcome to curse.
I can't even do it anymore. I just go, I've got little kids as well, so that's the way that I tend to curse myself. Yeah. But you want to really work. You really want to engage and be there. And as Scott says himself, you know, he loves to take something that could be commercial and make it far less commercial. Yeah. At all. But thank God, you know, we're removing all of the kind of propaganda of so many westerns. And this isn't your mum and dad's western. It's far more authentic. And also remember, you know, these movies, they're dying in the theaters now, unless it's zero budget, or you're playing some character like Batman, right? People aren't going to see the
really
films
sucks, man. No.
at all. And we need to find a way to keep these kinds of movies thriving in the theaters. I think it's vital, and it would be such a shame if that was to be lost.
And this is a film that sort of demands to be seen in theaters. You say it's not your mom and dad's Western, but I would argue visually it's very much your mom and dad's Western in the sense it follows in the same language of John Ford. You know, it's very wide open spaces and beautiful and long-held shots.
Well, that's the good part.
Yes, it's the best part of it.
That's Massa, the DP. He's absolutely extraordinary. He did Out of the Furnace as well. He's absolutely incredible.
What's it like to be able to be a part of a film that is aesthetically like that when all other films sort of seem to be combating that and striving to get our attention this fast all the time?
We got the pace of life at that time in a really extraordinary way. I think there's, you know, we were talking earlier about the violence. You know, this is not a film that glorifies violence for the sake of it or makes it, you know, supposedly appetizing and exciting. I mean, it is exciting and it's brutal. I mean, the brutality in this film is extreme. But also the beauty of it, and to be English and coming and seeing the best of America like that is a pretty profound experience. It's whether film can ever, you know, this comes as good as I've seen to capturing what we saw before our eyes, because sometimes with film you can have spectacular vistas that somehow don't live up to it on screen, and I think in this case Massa's photography really does.
I'm going to go to audience questions in just a minute, but before I do, Christian, I got to ask you, you're a bit bigger than you normally are, I think because of the last movie you were making, right? Do you like it? How do you like being a little bit big?
I like rolling around, you know.
It limits about it.
It limits my pant choice. Dope.
Yeah.
It's either elasticated or these. But I'm the type of shopper that goes out and I go, yeah, right, I'll have 6 of those, and that's the end of it because I don't like shopping. So, we just wrapped on filming Cheney last week. I was completely bald, bleached eyebrows. But this was really a canvas for the incredible makeup artist to create Mr. Cheney upon my face.
Well, I got to ask, what was it like shooting that while this is happening in this country?
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Just endless conversations, research. Adam McKay, who did The Big Short, and Talladega Nights, and Anchorman, etc., was directing, and it was fascinating. And that'll be well, we can talk about that next year.
Yes, absolutely. What's your process for getting back down if you have to do it?
I've got no idea. It used to be losing weight just meant smoke a lot and drink whiskey. But I don't think I'm going to do that anymore.
All right, let's get some audience questions. I haven't known them enough. Let's get one.
Hi. So there's some horseback riding and some other exterior shots. How physically challenging was it for you guys to work on the movie, and was it hard to balance that with some of the emotional aspects?
Fantastic sweater. That's like Christmas Spider-Man, isn't it? Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. There.
Well, we had horses every day. How many horses did we have on set every day? I mean,
At least a dozen.
yeah.
Wes is a very experienced horseman.
Oh,
He
actually,
was a breeder
I was
of horses.
I was playing in my backyard. You know, I live in the area where we shot in northern New Mexico and Colorado. But it was, I think it may have been a little more difficult for those who weren't accustomed to 7,000 feet altitude there for a while. But I think they measured up within a week or two, you know.
Next question.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Hey, Tommy.
I've watched you guys for like all my years and stuff like that, so I'm big fans of all you guys.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Christian. Was it hard to get into Blocker's head as a way of like figuring out like how he's about and stuff?
Lots of time to think about it previously, but nothing helps more than actually getting into the environment. And so once we were out there, we were at Fort Berenger. Once we were spending hours on horseback each and every day, you can really start to sense the isolation that the man must have felt for years and years.
One more question right here.
Hi, this question is for Wes, but anybody else can answer as well. I can't believe I've got Magua 10 feet in front of me here, so I'm a little bit freaked out by that, so I apologize.
Start moving closer very
yes.
slowly, and he'll get very freaked out too.
I tend to move quickly. How do you see opportunities for Native Americans in movies and TV going to the future, especially the way the country is right now?
The way the country is right now, I would only hope that this film does catch on, has a wide audience, and does well, not only critically but as well as box office, because work usually means more work. And for the Native American actor, more than likely the only or one of the few places to get a start in show business and filmmaking is the Western, because we fit right into it, right? And luckily over the years, filmmakers have begun to use real Native Americans and real Native American parts, and it makes a difference in terms of authenticity, and it gives those of us involved in the business a shot at some work, right? And hopefully we'll cross over into be known as actors rather than Native American actors. But it's always a slow process. Any kind of change is always going to be kind of a slow process in coming about, and I think that's true of all true for all ethnicities within the USA.
Guys, congratulations on the film. It's beautiful, it's harsh, it's violent in the best possible way. An incredible piece of work. It opens December 22nd, right, in New York and LA, and then I think it'll be expanding nationwide following Christmas in January. Is that true?
Correct.
All right, guys, give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.